Have you ever looked at something that seems absolutely perfect and gotten a feeling that something is just a little bit off? Well, what if the most beautiful things in our world are actually hiding the darkest secrets? Today, we're going to explore a really powerful idea that helps us see them. It's called beauty's shadow.
Beauty casts a shadow. It's a simple phrase, right? Kind of poetic, but it's also a warning. It suggests that beauty isn't always as innocent as it seems, that it almost always comes with a price.
And look, this isn't just some artsy metaphor. It's a real tool for critical thinking. It's a lens that forces us to look right past that flawless, shiny surface and ask a really tough question. What, or more importantly, who, is paying the price for all this perfection?
To really see this idea in action, let's start with our first section, the shadow of order. We're going to dive into a culture where the relentless pursuit of social and aesthetic harmony has created one of the deepest and most complex shadows you can imagine.
So, when you think of Japan, what comes to mind? For a lot of us, it's this picture of, well, perfection, right? Serene temples, sparkling clean streets, trains that run on the dot, super polite interactions. It's this incredible beauty that's built on precision and refinement. A society that, from the outside, seems to run with this flawless, effortless grace.
But here's the shadow. This is the staggering cost of maintaining that perfect social surface. And if you look at these points, you can see how each one is a direct reaction to that intense pressure. Take hikikomori. That's this phenomenon of extreme social withdrawal. It's basically what happens when the pressure to perform your social role becomes so totally unbearable that you just stop, you check out. Then you have karoshi. The word literally means death from overwork. It's the lethal endpoint of a culture that demands your total sacrifice. And this all ties into the cultural split between tatemae, that's your public face, the mask you wear, and hane, your true inner feelings. This creates a kind of social pressure cooker where, extreme or taboo desires can feel like the only possible release valve.
And that brings us to this number, 21,000. That's not just a statistic. It represents the ultimate final withdrawal. It's roughly the number of people who take their own lives in Japan every single year. And here's the really telling part. The pressure to maintain social harmony is so intense that for thousands, even in death, the main priority is to avoid being a burden on others. The pristine social order is preserved, yeah? But look at the absolutely devastating human cost.
Okay, so from social order, let's shift gears. Our next section is about the shadow of illusion. We're going to look at what happens when beauty stops being just a cultural value and becomes a commercial product, something manufactured and sold to the entire world.
Hollywood. Just the name itself, right? It conjures up these images of impossible glamour. You're thinking red carpets, perfect white smiles, ridiculously sculpted bodies. It's an entire industry built on manufacturing and selling an illusion of perfection. And let's be honest, it's an illusion that we all, on some level, buy into.
But that glittering illusion? It's fueled by actual human beings. In the Hollywood machine, the human body is just raw material, something to be shaped by surgery and starvation to fit a certain mold. The punishing schedules, the endless press tours, they're often powered by a cocktail of drugs, stimulants to keep going, opioids to deal with the pain, sleeping pills to manage the damage. And this insane power dynamic, of course, enables systemic exploitation. We saw this laid bare with the #MeToo movement. And this shadow, it's especially destructive for child stars. They're consistently treated as products first and people a distant second, only to be tossed aside when they're not profitable anymore. And if you need a perfect example, look no further than this. 13 years. For 13 years, Britney Spears' conservatorship meant she was legally deemed too incompetent to run her own life. But somehow, she was competent enough to work, perform, and earn millions of dollars. Think about that. She wasn't a person, she was a product, and the system was designed to protect the asset, not the human being. This is Hollywood's shadow, literally written into law.
All right, for our third and final section, we're looking at the shadow of spectacle. And this example is maybe the most literal one of all. We're going to a place where the spectacular, glittering beauty isn't just hiding the shadow, it is physically built by it.
Just look at the skyline of Dubai. In a way, it's an architectural mirage, isn't it? The world's tallest building, man-made islands shaped like palm trees that you can see from space. It's a whole vision that's designed to just awe you. It's a symbol of impossible wealth and futuristic achievement. But here's the thing. That vision is built on a foundation of modern-day bondage. It's called the kafala system. Basically, it ties a migrant worker's legal status directly to their employer. This allows for things like passport confiscation and wage theft, creating a totally captive workforce. And these workers, they're housed in hidden, squalid labor camps far from the tourist zones. Meanwhile, thousands of deaths from the extreme working conditions are just written off as natural causes. This system of total control enables a huge, dark economy of human trafficking and abuse. The beauty you see is not separate from this shadow. It is the direct physical result of it.
Let this number sink in for a second. Over 85%. That's the percentage of Dubai's population made up of foreign workers. The overwhelming majority of people physically in the city have few to no rights. The whole economic model, the entire glittering spectacle, is built on a demographic imbalance so extreme that it basically functions as a modern caste system. So, you see, the shadow isn't just some small, unfortunate part of Dubai's story. It is the story.
Okay, so we've looked at Japan, Hollywood, and Dubai. 3 very different places, but one common theme. This brings us to our final section, an honest beauty? And the big question is this trade-off just inevitable? Does creating something spectacularly beautiful always require such a dark and terrible shadow?
Well, if you look at the examples, a pattern starts to become pretty clear, right? The shadow gets deeper and darker whenever perfection is prioritized over authenticity. It happens when speed and scale, building bigger and faster, trumps any sense of sustainability. It happens when beauty is just a tool for power or for profit. And maybe most importantly, the shadow is always deepest when the costs are hidden and they're paid by the people who are the most powerless.
But maybe there's another way to think about this. Instead of this spectacular beauty that demands perfection and control while hiding all the costs, what if we looked for an honest beauty? What would that look like? Well, it would be a beauty that accepts imperfection, a beauty that's transparent about how it was made, one that understands that things are fleeting, they're not meant to be permanent and static. And it's a beauty that emerges from genuine care, not from control and coercion. Think about the difference between a messy, well-tended garden and a perfectly sterile, lifeless skyscraper.
And that brings us right to the final, and I think most challenging question. Maybe the problem isn't that beauty casts a shadow. Of course it does. Maybe the real problem is our own relentless demand for a flawless, shadowless light. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Are we willing to accept a different kind of beauty? A beauty that shows its seams, that admits its imperfections, a beauty that is maybe a little less perfect, but a whole lot more honest?